sometimes I look at this verse and I ask, okay, well, what is the trustworthy saying exactly then? I mean, what about all that stuff after the dash? Do we have to consider that part of this trustworthy saying? Isn't it just the part about Jesus saving sinners? Because I think it would be so much easier, so much simpler, if we could just forget this bit of whom I am the worst. If we could just, okay, that's just Paul. We don't have to worry about that. Because if Paul is saying that it's a trustworthy saying of whom I am the worst, if he's claiming to be the worst sinner, that means by implication that you and I are better than him. And I don't know if I'm comfortable saying that I'm better than the man who wrote half the New Testament. On the other hand, there's this voice inside of me that says, let Paul think whatever he wants about himself. You're a pretty good guy. You're really great. And I like the sound of that voice. I like listening to that voice. Flattery will get you everywhere. But I know, as much as you know, that deep down in my heart that voice is telling me a lie. So I don't know what to think. The more I think about it, the more confused I get. Am I better than Paul? No, clearly I'm not. Am I the worst sinner in the world? I hope not. I'd like to think that I'm not. So I wind up just getting upset, and I want to just yell at Paul, why did you have to write this? You're not the worst sinner in the world. You preach the gospel everywhere. You basically started the church. You wrote half the New Testament. You're not the worst sinner in the world, Paul. God, why did he say this? Why did he say this? And sometimes God speaks. Sometimes he brings clarity. And after getting so frustrated with Paul and his humility, God showed me what he was doing. The stuff after the dash, that has to be there. It's vitally important. It's part of the trustworthy saying because it shows that Paul has been humbled by the gospel. God's grace revealed the depth of his sinfulness, and his sinfulness showed the power of God's grace. You and I then have a problem. We cannot communicate the gospel in a trustworthy manner until we've been humbled by it. We cannot say with passionate conviction that Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners until we can also say with authenticity and humility of whom I am the worst. God can only carve the gospel onto a humble heart. And Paul's heart, as we know from his life and his letters, had the gospel written all over it. He could say with a sincere and humble heart that he was the worst sinner. I know that I'm not better than Paul. So what choice do I have? What choice does Andy Holt have but to say, I am the worst sinner. I am the worst sinner. And I can prove it to you. I want to tell you a story about my summer in Yosemite. Yosemite Valley is the most magnificent place on earth. I hit the valley floor in my Honda Accord with about a half hour of daylight left. My friend and I had pushed it really hard to get through the Nevada desert that summer in 2004. Nevada's really a wasteland. I'm sorry if any of you are from Nevada, but to drive through it, we had to drive through it to get to the valley, and the valley was worth it. There was life everywhere. Giant sequoias lined verdant fields of grass. The Granite Valley Wall shot 3,000 feet straight into the air. And the valley itself isn't more than 2 miles wide. And so you have to strain your neck to see to the top of the cliffs. And water is just rushing over these granite monoliths at breakneck speed, and it just forms the most beautiful cascades that you've ever seen in your life. I've been to Niagara Falls. I'll take Yosemite Valley any day of the week. As I'm driving in, I had to open the moonroof just to take it all in, and I'm like going to crash the car because it's just overpowering magnificence and beauty. And there on the eastern edge of the valley was the Yosemite trademark, Half Dome, bathed in the golden light of a setting sun. And I can tell you that my bones ache to be in that place again. I want to go back. But if Yosemite Valley is the most beautiful place I've ever been, then it was only appropriate that it brought out the ugliness, the absolute ugliness of my heart. As a park employee, I was assigned to live in employee housing, and my little community was called Boys Town. It had the reputation of being party central for everybody that worked in the park. But I thought, after spending 2 years on Fraternity Row at Ohio State, I've seen it all. There's nothing that Boys Town can throw at me that I haven't seen something 10 times worse, and I'm not going to have a problem with the partying at Boys Town. And I was right. I wasn't tempted to join the party. I wasn't tempted to drink or do drugs or sleep with anyone. And in fact, to be honest with you, their idea of a party was really lame. I had seen real parties at Ohio State, and what happened at Boys Town was like the minor leagues. I mean, it was pathetic. Everyone thought they were being so cool and so rebellious. And I just wanted to say, you call this debauchery? This is nothing. I mean, where are the flaming couches in the street? Where are the turned over cars and the riot police? Your pathetic attempts at rebellion are boring me. And what was happening was that I was starting to develop this heart that was condescending towards people. I was like, you guys are lame. Your evil is lame. It's weak. And before I knew it, my condescension turned into pride. And my pride became self-righteousness. And I decided, I don't want to be anything like these people. I'm going to be completely different.